like this ain't over yet. There's gonna be another shoe to drop.
Oh, not with him, I wouldn't think. I mean, it is what it is. I think the people at CNN that he is protecting are now, like, Ryan Stifler is done.
Probably, but
Oh, you're the guy that holds the news media accountable, huh? Didn't feel like you needed to tell us that your boss was
engaged in a sexual relationship with a close ally of the man who your organization has clearly been implicated in defending in heinous allegations.
Oh, konnichiwa.
Oh, it's already on. The fuck am I doing? Morning, Megan. And on the off chance you're driving them to school, I want to say good morning to the Wilbanks boys as well. Danny's with us. I see Jamie drew first blood. We got Sean in the house. And Steve and Patrick are notably absent. What's up, bitches? How you doing, sunshine?
Man, it's a day, isn't it?
It is one of those.
It's a day.
It's a little dribbly outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to go do some drone stuff today, but looking like a no.
But maybe not.
And His Majesty has joined us. Good morning. Good morning, Sergeant Major.
Yeah.
So, we are going to be talking mostly today about the honkening. But a thing happened yesterday, and we need to cover that real quick. And it's loosely related to some of the stuff we're going to talk about with the Canadian convoy. Very loosely related, but there is a tie in here. And we're gonna take a look at this article from the Washington Free Beacon about the subject of Mark Zucker is out at CNN. He's not there anymore. So it looks like
Whoa. His name is not Mark.
That's no. Okay. No. This one's Jeff Zucker. Yeah, that marks the Facebook guy. Zuckerberg, Goebbels. I get all those Nazi propagandists confused. They all look like red socialists to me. Anyway, Zucker's out. Zucker has tendered his resignation, and this isn't just a big deal because of the story around it, which we'll get into just a little bit, but it's a reminder that CNN isn't just the least trustable name in news. Okay, and that I know that's a hell of a statement, but like MSNBC, they wear their bias on their sleeve. They are leftist hacks from the word go, and they bank on that. CNN is at least as far leftist propaganda as MSNBC, and continues to pretend not to be. Right? So, Stryker says Cuomo snitched on Zucker. I'm not sure exactly how that went down, but basically what's happened is this. Jeff was sleeping with the EVP of marketing whose name escapes me at the moment.
Allison Gullist.
That's it. Gullist. And the reason this is especially scandalous, right? It would be one thing if what we were talking about is the boss is sleeping with one of his underlings, and that's a general no-no because of reasons. Except what's happening here is this guy, it's that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This guy has, he's behind me. This guy. So Zucker's sleeping with this chick who, you know what, she looks like the chick that screwed a bunch of people out of money for a failed bio firm thing. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She was the
Theranos
female
chick.
Yeah, the Theranos chick, the female Steve Jobs. Not that Steve Jobs was a bad guy, but she modeled herself on Steve Jobs. She wore the black turtlenecks and tried to put on his affectations and all that stuff. Anyway, so what you have in this, and you'll see that they've got Andrew Cuomo in this picture as well.
Yeah, there's 2 disgraced New York governors in that picture.
It's amazing, isn't it? So, the funny thing is, of all these people, Toobin's the only one who legitimately just got busted out for being a pervert, right? Everybody else in here is implicated in serious propaganda, like skirting the law, causing harm by the production of propaganda, and then got themselves wrapped up in a sexual scandal, apparently to cover for their other misdeeds. That's most especially true when you talk about the Cuomo brothers, and this is where Zuckerberg is implicated, because the EVP, this Gullist chick that he's banging, Elizabeth Holmes, thank you, Danny. Elizabeth Holmes is the Theranos chick. I kept wanting to say Allison Holmes. I knew that wasn't correct. At least Toobin kept his hands to himself. That's for you, Steve. He did indeed. On a Zoom call with other people watching. But Zucker is implicated here in a sexual relationship with a woman who is tied intimately to Andrew Cuomo. She used to work for him as his communications director. And so now you've got her sleeping with the boss at CNN while she's working at CNN after having been the communications director for Andrew Cuomo, and to pretend like there's not some tie there. And with Chris Cuomo, of course, being his brother, it was Chris Cuomo got drummed out of the network on a sexual scandal. He got drummed out of the network for some kind of sexual harassment stuff because they had to cover for the fact that he had to be drummed out when he got busted covering for his brother and consulting with his brother on how his brother should get himself out of the hot water, how Andrew Cuomo should get himself out of hot water, deny and dissemble and blame the victim to get away with his sexual misconduct allegations, which, by the way, were on track to become criminal charges that are now just disappearing. When it's absolutely obvious to anyone with a brain who's read a headline that Andrew Cuomo had to go because he murdered 15,000 elderly New Yorkers intentionally and with malice of premeditation. He made a decision to murder these people for no reason other than to hurt Donald Trump's re-election chances.
You know what's funny? What this has in common, okay? The thing with Zucker apparently was like an open secret. It was known around the CNN office for years. You know, I think they're banging. And I think Jeff and Allison are banging. You know, it's just kind of weird there, okay? All Jeff had to do was voluntarily disclose the relationship. Like that's a thing.
Right,
It's
that's
common. There's a morality clause in a lot of corporations, especially if you're in a position of authority. A relationship is something that must be disclosed.
And, I mean, people have sex. It's a thing that people do, especially if you happen to work at CNN, and that sex is weird and dangerous and illegal.
Yes, that's not exactly where I was going with it, but fair enough.
Well, that's why there's the, the
Yes,
voluntary
but,
disclosure
look,
agreement.
Yeah, but, okay, Chris wanting to help his brother, Andrew, is actually, it's a shitty thing, but it's a normal, understandable thing. Like, your brother gets himself in hot water. Like, I would help you hide a body.
Yeah.
After the body was hid, I'd have some questions for you.
I should hope so.
But I would help you hide a body, right? And it's the same thing here. And all the one Quobo would have had to have done, all Chris would have had to have done, and been like, look, I'm trying to help my brother, okay? Maybe pull me off the air for 6 weeks, and then I'll just come back and everything will be on the up and up, right?
Right.
Same thing here. All Jeff would have had to have done and been like, hey, so look at me. Now look at her.
Yep. She's 15 years younger than me and kind of hot.
Right. That is clearly the best I am ever going to do.
And, I mean, it's the math's not complicated. The older you get, the hotter 15 years younger than you looks.
Though we're in that weird awkward spot where 15 years younger than us is kind of
That's a
weird.
conversation we've had a few times. Like, we went to Hooters for lunch several months ago, and our waitress was, what was she, maybe 22?
Yeah.
Good-looking girl, right?
But a girl.
Technically a very attractive young lady, but she just looked like just a child.
A girl.
Just, like,
Anyhow.
I wanted to ask her, does your mama know you're here?
Probably. But anyhow, the thing that they have in common is all they would have had to have done is just been honest about the behavior.
Yeah.
But honesty. CNN. Ha, ha, ha,
Right.
ha. Like,
Honesty from the same people that reported that Nick Sandman was a violent white supremacist, from the same people that reported that Rittenhouse was a violent white supremacist, from the same people that reported that masks work, and then reported that they don't. So, one of those statements has to be incorrect. And Dad says, my mother's watching. I must have said something bad. Sorry, Mom. I mean, CNN, the same guys that told us that airplanes disappeared into a black hole. The same people that told...
Tiny
I could do this all day.
tiny ones. Tiny black holes.
I mean, they reported that Joe Biden won the election. CNN
did. It was the most awesome and secure election of all time.
Totally. We'll be on Rumble.
Hey, you ever think like Putin sits back and is like, when we say secure election, I never thought America show us how to do it.
Well, in fairness,
In Mother Russia, election secure you.
So, what does this have to do? How is this related to the Freedom Convoy? Okay, this is a bit of a stretch, and I'm not just making the stretch because I've got two pieces of news that I want to talk about on the same day. There is a relationship here, but the reason that the Zucker resignation is important and related to the Canadian trucker situation is because what we're talking about is people who conduct state-run propaganda. Okay? We just had... I considered playing the clip, but I'm not going to. I hope you saw it, but we had a clip just recently of Jen Psaki answering a question about the Spotify Joe Rogan controversy, and she said, we want the administration, specifically, The Biden administration wants all social media and media outlets to engage in the kind of activity that Spotify is, or I'm sorry, that people like YouTube and the like, banning, censoring, destroying the freedom of speech. She said, we want all platforms doing this. And Spotify attaching a warning label to some of Joe Rogan's content is an okay first step, but it's not enough. So let's be very clear on that. What that means is that the actions taken by private companies to censor people, own a private platform, is being done at the explicit behest and encouragement of the United States government, which makes all deplatforming a crime, the deprivation of civil liberties under color of law. U.S. Code 18242. 242? 243. It's 242 or 3. 243. Anyway, so that the Biden administration has weighed in and made a statement to that effect means that every time we were removed from this platform, from YouTube, I'm sorry, we're on several platforms, so I should specify, from YouTube for quote-unquote misinformation, every statement of which we've ever made is now mainstream, is now what's being repeated on the bigger networks that don't get censored for misinformation, even though they have spread what is now known to absolutely be misinformation, like the claim that the vaccine will protect you 100% and prevent you from being able to transmit Rachel Maddow. I mean, come on, dude.
Now, wait a minute. Transmitting Rachel Maddow is completely different than transmitting the COVID.
Yeah.
One of those is worse than the other.
You're right. Rachel Maddow should never be transmitted.
I'd say it's an STD.
She's been transed enough. No more mittens for her.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I can keep going. Anyway, so all that happens. You got to understand that we're in this place. We talk about the meme war, where our governments are seeking to make us hurt, are seeking to cause us harm, are seeking to take away our liberties, our freedoms, right? And this is happening all over the world. America is not the last bastion of freedom. It is the first footfall on the beachhead of tyranny. It is the first place that humans had free will, right? And so, in opposition to the truckers' convoy in Canada, which is there to protest, and this is an important distinction that is intentionally being muddied, they are there to protest mandates, government authority overreach. They are not protesting vaccines. They are protesting the mandate of governments to force you to take an action involuntarily.
Yeah, according to Tim Pool, aren't like 80% of these guys already vaxxed?
Yeah.
So to say...
But a big part of their problem, a big part of the problem that the vaccinated people have with the mandates is you're putting additional onerous restrictions and requirements on us, making our job harder. A big part of that is we tried to comply our way back into freedom, and you won't frickin' let us. So the Canadian media launches latest anti-trucker convoy propaganda. This is from the 29th, so just a few days ago. Blame Russia. Of course it's Russia. It's no secret that the government and corporate media apparatus in Canada is similar to that in the United States. Some would say they're even more leftist than what we have, especially with their woke prime minister and his cronies in the press and his habitual blackface. That's why there's nothing surprising about the latest attempt by the powers in Canada to gaslight the people into believing the extremely popular and widely supported trucker convoy that has made international news is not something they should support. By the way, that convoy has raised over $7 million, and I'll get to that in just a minute, too, because
they can't touch it.
Because GoFundMe to the rescue. Multiple outlets simultaneously started pushing the ludicrous theory that the anti-vaccine mandate push is nothing more than a Russian plot because of Canada's support for Ukraine. Seriously, here's an example. Big Pharma's 5 major minions that everyone vaxxed or unvaxxed must oppose. This is not, nope, skipped it. Just as American media refuses to believe the well-informed folks pushing against mandates in this country have reason for concern, so too does Canadian media want to think it's all a big conspiracy against them. But our concerns are legitimate and well-founded. We are following the science, which clearly tells us the vaccines are neither safe nor effective. Moreover, we believe the medical freedom that should be inherent with any modern Western society. Okay.
Well, hey, YouTube, disclaimer.
Yeah, I was about
That's Clarion's.
Yeah, this is Clarion
Not
News.
our opinion. We think the vaccine is great. Everybody should be vaxxed, like 17 times.
Totally. As long as we allow the powers to... Yeah, talk to your frickin' doctor. Don't just pull into a parking lot and let some random volunteer jab you in the arm. Talk to your doctor.
No, but
Because let's assume for a moment, and I do, that the vaccine is safe and more or less effective. If I'm pulling into some random church parking lot and some random dude is coming up and jabbing me in the arm with a needle, instead of my doctor, how do I know that's not heroin? I don't know you. I know my doctor.
Well, given how quick heroin hits the bloodstream, you'd know in about 90 seconds.
Yep, and it's too late. You're already addicted and you're going to shit in your sheets. Good luck.
That's, you know what? No,
It was an awful movie. I don't know why people enjoyed it.
I think that was the point. I think it was supposed to be an awful movie. It was supposed to be
Maybe
addiction.
that was lost on me.
Addiction is ugly. It's a
That
train
it is.
spotting reference.
As long as we allow the powers to be to control the narrative, we will continue to be bombarded with propaganda, gaslighting, and outright lies. The parallels between the United States and Canada are striking in this regard, especially when we consider how the trucker mandate affects the economies of both nations greatly. We must show our support for the truckers and everyone who's fighting medical tyranny, both in America and abroad. And Alex, I'm not going to discuss that on my show.
It's a HIPAA violation there, buddy.
No, it's not.
Dude, I'm making the joke.
Okay, fair enough.
I realize we can voluntarily disclose the information and it's no longer a HIPAA violation. I get that.
Well, even for him to ask it is not a violation because he's not.
No, I
he's
know.
not signed.
I know.
Okay. Just checking. That's been a thing. That's been a thing where people have been talking about. They've been invoking HIPAA as if it somehow protects your rights and medical privacy. HIPAA does not protect your rights and medical privacy. HIPAA restrains those people who you are basically forced to trust. Doctors, insurance agents, healthcare professionals, people who have to have access to your private medical information in order to provide service based on that private medical information. A doctor needs your medical history to understand your medical profile and how to make decisions about that. HIPAA restrains those people from sharing your information. HIPAA does not protect you from non-healthcare professionals asking you questions. That's what the Fourth Amendment is for.
Well, there's a whole bunch of... It's similar to how, you can go to your lawyer and you can tell your lawyer, hey, I committed murder, but I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
Or you can go to your therapist and say, hey, I'm a little crazy, but I need help. And they're actually constrained by law. There's only a very small set of circumstances where they're even allowed the option of sharing that information with someone else. And it's just like you said, if you're not honest with your doctor can't help you.
Right.
So, blame Russia, huh?
For example, if you tell your doctor a man and he's trying to treat you for ovarian cancer.
Yeah, that might be
I
important.
can't have ovarian cancer. Respect my pronouns.
Exactly. No, I'm supposed to win a swimming competition, damn it. Anyhow, as you were going through the article, I kept waiting on him to talk about truckers hiring prostitutes to pee on a bed.
Apparently that didn't happen.
Apparently it didn't happen. You're damn right.
I've got this article about Elon Musk, but we're getting a little late in the hour, so I want to make sure that we get to this one. This is from The Guardian, and what the hell are you doing to me, Guardian? Okay, thank you. So, this is from The Guardian. Ottawa police considering military intervention to end unlawful blockade. And this is going to dovetail nicely into Firearms Friday. Authorities also warned bringing in the military carried a massive risk as they believe the protesters are armed.
Gee. Wow, now, that one sentence, that's
everything you need to know.
Hold on now. You mean they might be armed? Maybe we should treat them with respect. No,
now, this is
shit.
Canada. This is Canada, where nobody's allowed to have a gun. Police in Ottawa warned they may have to call in the military to disband unlawful protests in the nation's capital and a town near the U.S. border, amid mounting tensions between protesters opposing COVID restrictions and local residents. Wait, the protesters are opposing COVID restrictions and they are opposing local residents? I hope that's a typo and not the actual position. I hope that's just a misuse of the
conjunction. It's tough to tell with these fuckers, man. Oh, there's the F-bomb. Almost made the whole half an hour. It's my fault.
It's okay. The Ottawa police chief, Peter Slowly, warned on Wednesday that the officer... I'm sorry.
Steve, there is no such thing as a gun that is not fun. They're all fun. There's just varying degrees of fun. It's like saying there's no such thing as chocolate that's bad. It's just some chocolate's better than others.
Ooh.
And I stick with my analogy.
Warned on Wednesday that the officers did not have the resources to remove a fleet of trucks parked by the protesters in the national capital, adding the city was considering requesting help from Canadian armed forces. And okay, when you say Canadian armed forces, there's a deep temptation there to chuckle a bit. There really is. I've worked with some Canuck killers, and they do have some legitimate badasses in their ranks. Well,
yeah, man, but Canadian training is like, okay, we're going to take all your shit away, and you got to hike 10 miles that way, and if you make it back to base...
You win.
You win.
You get to keep your job. If you survive this hike, you get to keep your job. But plus, I mean, I gotta say, the Canadians they roll in fashion. They roll in style, man. I mean, they put up a Tim Hortons on Kandahar. Yeah, it was a 10-mile ruck march, but it was worth it for the donuts and coffee in the mornings. I wish Parks was watching this morning because he knows what I'm talking about.
Well, Sean Stryker just referenced Peter Jennings, so we know he's older than 30.
Oh, wow.
Because you'd have to be to even understand that joke or why that would be appropriate.
So, but he warned bringing in the military carried a massive risk, adding that protesters are believed to have weapons. That right there. We don't want to bring in the military because we're afraid that the citizens are armed.
There are so many implications in that sentence.
Now let's take a moment and talk about Australia, just for a moment.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Australia. The lefty gun grabbers in this country love to point to Australia. They point to Australia all the time and say, "Well, Australia did a buyback, not a confiscation, and that worked out great."
Yeah, it's like an eminent domain buyback.
Yeah, a couple of things. For one, it was a mandatory buyback. So if in any way you believe that to not be an armed, involuntary capitulation to government authority, you're lying to yourself. The Australian government used their guns to force people to turn over their guns.
Yeah,
I don't care how much you paid them for the guns. You disarmed your populace, and now we look at Australia, and they have concentration camps, and they're telling people you cannot leave your house even to go to the grocery store, or we'll put you in a camp. Now this is in the same period in history where we have people like Noam Chomsky saying we should starve them. We should starve people who aren't vaxxed. We should make them all die. That's a statement from Noam Chomsky. Okay, and
I
he is a
haven't heard
respected academic, huh?
I hadn't heard him say that.
Oh yeah.
I might.
Oh yeah. Kill them all. He basically called for an anti-vaxxer Holodomor. And he's talking, and that's another that's another tricky twist of the lie, is the idea that you can conflate anti-vaxxers with anti-mandate protesters. A lot of the anti-mandate guys are vaccinated. The protest is not about a vaccine. The protest is about government overreach, about the usurpation of illegitimate authority by violent, communist, tyrannical governments. And when you look at Canada, Australia, and America, they have all clearly been co-opted by the Chinese Communist Party. Right? For God's sake, we couldn't throw a man off of the House Intelligence Committee after he was caught sleeping knowingly with a Chinese spy. Right? And then you look here, and the Canadian military, or the Canadian police are requesting Canadian military get involved, and the military says that's a bad idea because the protesters may be armed. They don't know that the protesters are armed. They may not be armed. We are talking about Canadians, after all. So you come right back here to America for a moment, and I tell you this.
I think anybody driving an 18-wheeler is armed.
I should hope so, but they're not supposed to be in Canada.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the truck.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. Like,
but this article is that headline is just that right there. If anybody ever says common sense gun control to you, that person is your enemy.
Yeah, common sense gun control is tight groups at 15 yards.
Right.
Like, period.
Anybody who's still saying common sense gun control, it's like everybody else in the Matrix that's not actually an agent. They're still a threat.
Because at any point in time,
the
system could co-opt them. I mean, and that's, man, like, you ever think the Wachowski sisters ever go back and watch The Matrix and they're like, oh, God damn it.
No, but I don't know, but I can say this for certain about the Wachowski sisters. Neither of them will die of ovarian cancer.
Zing. Let me just touch one other thing, though, real quick, okay? Not just all the stuff with Australia and everything else, and armed society is a polite society, okay? Remember all the, who was it that was like, yeah, well, the U.S. military has nukes?
Oh.
You know the quote I'm referencing?
I do.
Apparently, look, what I'm getting at is, apparently, even if everybody, because Steve points out that they don't have fun guns in Canada, specifically, there are certain things you can get in Canada. Like, you can get shotguns and hunting rifles.
Right.
Because, bears and moose, which will apparently fuck you up worse than a bear in certain circumstances.
Well, the problem with a moose is, when you hit a deer, it might ruin the front end of your truck. When you hit a moose, you hit him in the knees, and he just falls over on top of you. Everybody, Dad and I were actually talking about this last night. There are no winners when you hit a moose. Everybody dies. You and the moose and your truck. Probably a few trees.
Everybody loses. Everybody loses. Okay, but there's a part of the whole
and the state, because these freaking things are heavy. It costs a fortune to move them.
But there's a whole gun culture in America, and we've talked about this before, about how the left, and in particular, wants to disassemble the gun culture. They don't want friends to be able to give firearms to friends.
Right.
They don't want firearms passed down through families because it's part of the gun culture. Well, another part of that gun culture is very much anti-tyranny. And the thought goes something like this. We don't ever want to have to use these firearms against our own government. However, we want to always have the option to use these firearms against our own government. And just the mere existence, the fact that it could happen, at least up to this point, we might be reaching a threshold, but that's a different thing, has pretty well kept things in check. And so when the left looks down on you and is like, oh, well, what are you going to do with your pea shooter? Well, me by myself, not much. But me plus, I don't know, 10 or 20 million people just like me? Well, a lot.
Yeah, and it's not even that many.
No.
For every person, but to your point, for every person that says something like, well, the government's got fighter jets and nukes and stuff, I'm like, yes, the U.S. government has fighter jets and nukes and stuff. Allow me to refer you to Vietnam, Afghanistan, the whole Middle East situation. Guys, guerrilla warfare is incredibly effective, pernicious, and difficult to overcome. You've got a nuke, okay. Are you going to nuke the entire United States? Because if it comes to that, that is where your enemy is. That is where freedom lives. Freedom lives everywhere that rough men are willing to do violence on your behalf so that you may sleep peacefully in your beds at night. That is where freedom lives.
Hey, the Wachowskis will never die of ovarian cancer, but Justin Trudeau might die of sickle cell anemia.
And the most recent women's swim team champion just might go down to testicular cancer. But that's for another show. We love you guys. Y'all be safe out there, and mañana will be Firearms Friday. Oh, and why isn't that button working? And